Welcome to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Thank you so much for coming, Misha Safran from CEEQ.
Yes, I'm here and I'm delighted. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start out. What is emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is the opportunity to identify in oneself our emotions and then to be able to talk about them. And a lot of people don't want to talk about emotions. But it's so there's when you think about intelligence, and I'm somebody like when I was up until the age of 54 and I'm 56 now, I didn't think I was intelligent. I actually didn't. But what happened is people started to tell me, Misha, you are intelligent in so many ways that you don't even realize. And the biggest one was emotions. Like I can feel them, I can sense them, I can see it in other people, and I can talk about them.
Most people want to be able to cope with emotions. They don't particularly want to talk about them.
Right.
So
And that's the challenge. So if they don't talk about them, then they're really not acknowledging them, which means that they come up, what you resist persists. So they're just going to keep on having them until you start talking about it and get it out and feel it, and then be able to say, okay, now we have a relationship. Thank you for showing up. You can exit stage left so I can feel this feeling now.
let's talk about startup businesses and what
Absolutely.
kind of situations can come up where emotional intelligence will either get you into a lot of trouble or get you out of it.
I would like to think that emotional intelligence will most of the time just get you out of it as opposed to get you in a lot of trouble. Because the more we are aware of how we're feeling and the things that trigger us, we can, again, like I said earlier, acknowledge it, but also be aware of what other people might be experiencing. So that's kind of the empathy piece of it. But when you are intelligent emotionally, you will know that what you are doing or saying may be activating somebody else. And so you can feel it here and also understand, acknowledge that somebody else is feeling it there. And so when you have the opportunity to recognize it, you can be even more successful in your business because you can gauge yourself so that you don't go into reaction mode, but you're actually in response mode. But you can also engage and gauge others. Well, because it's uncomfortable to feel feelings and it's uncomfortable to feel other people's feelings. And yet the more we do it, the more we practice it, the more comfortable it becomes. However, the idea with emotional intelligence is to create that safety, to cultivate trust and safety with people.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the examples that comes up all the time is you can't understand what tech support wants or needs. And to be able to get someone who's in tech support to understand they are speaking a foreign language to you and you need them to dumb it down or translate it, please.
Yeah.
But you need to understand their frustration with a world that doesn't understand them either, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that may feel like in the tech world, it's like, no feelings, but actually it creates connection, right? It creates belonging, it creates understanding and support. And when we understand what other people are, and this is actually leaning a little more into empathy than it is emotional intelligence, but they're combined. They're totally combined. Where if we're willing to understand, what it takes to run a podcast, for example, like you do, then I'm not going to be frustrated with anything that might not go well. And if you're sitting with me in a training, you know that I'm the expert in my training, but I'm not a perfect human being either. So you're going to understand that speaking in front of a lot of people can be nerve-wracking and there's feelings that come up around it. So it's an opportunity not only to embrace our feelings and walk through them, but to also understand the position of another person.
What about the situation where you've got a 20 something male tech startup and he's having trouble getting his development team and his marketing team to actually talk to each other? Give me some advice here.
Absolutely. We fire them all and start over. No, I'm just kidding. So I think at that point, and this is the work that I do, is helping people communicate with each other where they can actually hear each other, whether it's through active listening or compassionate communication or a new technique, which is not so new, called looping, and I learned this through the Center for Understanding and Conflict, is supporting people to understand each other's positions. And so rather than going, and also assuming positive intent, going in, understanding that people are wanting to do the best job they can, and sometimes they don't have all the resources. And so if we can kind of, I don't even know about dumbing it down, but just, I'll give an example. Children are super successful and excited when an adult sits on the floor with them. And so as adults, we forget to sit on the floor with our people. We forget. We completely think we're rise above. We are the hierarchy. So therefore, you little people, direct reports, etc., you're supposed to do it the way I tell you to do it, regardless of whether you know how or not. But actually, that's not how life works. We've all learned from watching other people do things, watching them do it well, watching them make mistakes. So for this tech person running this 20-some group, I would say get on their level. Find out what's going wrong, what's going right, where they need support, where they don't understand, but really talk about it.
And find out what kind of support they think they need as opposed to the kind of support you think they need.
Absolutely. And that is the key role of active listening, compassionate communication, is that you are finding out from them, where are you? What do you know? What do you not know? How can I support you? Because we are all really, truly experts of ourselves. But oftentimes in certain positions, we don't see those people as experts, and they are. They really are. They have all the answers.
Sure. And when you've got better communication, you've got better productivity. You can stay on mission. That's another thing, is that startups need to have a clear mission for their company and make sure that everybody who's working with and for the company understands that mission and
And I'll
focuses.
take it a step further, Mary, because I really feel like each person needs to have their own mission and vision. And then each team needs to come together and find out how do our individual missions and visions align? And then how does that align with the overall mission of the organization? And obviously for startups, we kind of have to have our own vision or mission. My vision is to help 100,000 people feel heard, seen, valued, and understood in their relationships at home and in the workplace. That's my vision, right? And it
That's
doesn't
a,
mean that everybody has to have the same vision, but
the other nice thing about that vision is that it's one sentence.
oh yeah, thank you.
It's
I worked on
very
that.
clear in one sentence what it is that you want to accomplish. So that's really, really great. Do you have any other tips about emotional intelligence?
I think that the biggest tip I want to offer is not to be afraid of our feelings. A lot of people, have been taught not to trust their intuition. Not, it's like, if you think something, like second guess it. And then a lot of people have also been taught that they really shouldn't show any emotion. And reality is, I mean, I've done workshop after workshop after workshop where most people say they feel closer to people when there's been some vulnerable sharing. And I don't mean your deep, dark secrets, but just to express, maybe you're frustrated or you're having a hard day. And so when we acknowledge and recognize emotions, we don't have to be afraid of them so much, but we have to practice in order to do that.
Yeah, life is not a game of poker.
Oh, it's
Life has games of poker, but it's not a game of poker. So being able to hide your emotions strategically is a better skill to have.
Yeah, when I'm coaching and a client has some personal experience that comes up, I can feel it inside, but this session's about my client. So I'm not going to start crying like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad for you." That's going to take it away from my client, right? So in that sense, I'm going to hide the majority of my feelings in that moment because it's about them. But in other situations with coworkers or colleagues or friends, I want to practice being vulnerable so they can trust me when they need to be vulnerable.
Yeah, that's all about making connections, and some of them last forever. Yay!
Yay. And they say in the business world, and I heard this from Sage Levine, connection equals currency.
It does. Well, thank you very much, Misha Safran from CEEQ. We've learned a lot about emotional intelligence, and we'll put some links in the comments so that people can learn more. Thanks
Thank you
again.
very much. Appreciate you.
I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. One of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stop Time to Improv.